You know, we live in a world that worships the idea of helping. From the moment we can walk, we're told that goodness means giving, that love means saying yes, that a worthy life is one spent fixing the broken pieces of everyone else. We've built entire identities around being useful, the healer, the rescuer, the one who shows up no matter how empty their own cup has become. And if you ever dare to pause, if you ever whisper no, the world looks at you as if you've committed a small crime against kindness. But what if this endless giving, this compulsive saving, isn't the light we think it is? What if, beneath the glow of our generosity, there hides a quiet fear, the fear of being unneeded, unseen, unloved? We rush to patch every wound, to catch every falling soul, because somewhere inside we believe that their pain defines our purpose. Yet in our desperate attempts to heal the world, we often become the very thing that stops it from healing itself. Think about it. When you keep pulling a butterfly from its cocoon, it never learns to fly. When you hold up every branch in a storm, the tree forgets how to bend. There's a strange tenderness in letting things struggle, a love that trusts growth more than control. Helping isn't wrong, but helping without wisdom can quietly become harm. Not because we mean to hurt anyone, but because we confuse compassion with interference, care with control, connection with rescue. Today, I want to tell you about 6 illusions that drain our light. 6 ways we try to love that slowly undo us. They look like kindness, they sound like virtue, but they keep both you and the other asleep. So, the question isn't, are you a good person? The question is, are you helping or are you hiding behind it? Are you ready to see the difference? Have you ever met someone who seems to carry the entire world on their shoulders, always fixing, always soothing, always saving? Maybe that someone is you. There's a certain sweetness in being the one people turn to. It makes you feel alive, needed, almost holy. You patch their broken dreams, stay up late listening to their pain, rearrange your life to make theirs a little easier. And when they thank you, you feel a quiet glow, the kind that whispers, "See, you matter." But here's the secret no one wants to say aloud. That glow is addictive. The more you help, the more you need to help. You start scanning the horizon for someone else to rescue, someone else to mend. Your compassion becomes a currency, traded for identity. You don't even notice when you stop asking the simplest question of all, does this person even want to be saved? I once knew a woman who described herself as everyone's safe place. Her phone never stopped ringing. People poured their heartbreak into her, like water into an endless well. She wore her exhaustion as a badge of honor, until one day she realized the well had run dry, not because she stopped caring, but because she had forgotten how to care for herself. The tragedy wasn't that others took too much. It was that she never learned to stop giving. Helping from love and helping from fear look the same on the surface. The difference is invisible. It lives in your heart. When you help from love, you give freely and let go. When you help from fear, you hold on tightly, trying to prove your worth through someone else's recovery. One liberates, the other entangles. Ask yourself, what part of me needs to save in order to feel safe? What am I trying to fix in others that I refuse to face in myself? The irony is beautiful, really. The moment you stop rescuing everyone, you begin to rescue yourself. You discover that love isn't about holding up another's sky, it's about trusting that they, too, can find their wings. You know, it's a strange thing how easily we confuse compassion with debt. Somewhere deep inside, many of us carry this quiet equation. If someone is suffering, I must fix it. If I have more, I owe them my peace. It sounds noble, doesn't it? But hidden beneath that kindness is a subtle arrogance, the belief that we know better than life itself who deserves what. I once met a man who kept watering a plant long after it had died. He said, maybe it will bloom again if I just don't give up. Every day he poured more water, more effort, until the soil turned to mud and the pot began to rot. He couldn't see that his care had become the very thing keeping decay alive. That's what we do when we help out of guilt or obligation. We keep feeding what's already complete in its ending. There's a powerful illusion at play here, the illusion of deservedness. We think people deserve our energy simply because they're struggling. But life isn't built on deserts. It's built on readiness. The rain doesn't fall because the ground deserves it. It falls because the sky is full. The ground must be open to receive. In the same way, no one truly benefits from what they are not ready to hold. When we give beyond what is invited, we cross an invisible line from compassion into control. We begin to play God in someone else's story, editing their pain before they've had the chance to learn from it. And, ironically, we rob them of dignity. The dignity of their own unfolding, their own timing, their own awakening. So the next time you feel the pull to fix someone's storm, pause. Ask yourself, are you offering love, or are you paying a debt that no one asked you to owe? True generosity doesn't arise from guilt. It arises from fullness. It gives without needing to be seen, and it stops when the giving becomes interference. Because the truth is, not everyone needs more water. Some simply need space to grow roots on their own. There's a quiet pleasure in being the one who knows. The one with insight, clarity, wisdom, the one who sees what others can't. At first, it feels like love in motion. You share your advice, your lessons, your perspective. You watch someone stumble and think, if only they'd listen, I could save them from all this pain. And maybe you can. But beneath that noble urge hides a dangerous seed, the illusion of superiority. It begins so subtly. You start believing that your awareness makes you safer, wiser, perhaps even more evolved than the rest. You stop seeing others as equals in the same grand experiment of being human and start seeing them as projects to be improved. Your care becomes a classroom. Your compassion a lecture. You start mistaking empathy for authority. I once heard about a teacher who loved solving his students' puzzles. Whenever someone struggled, he'd rush over, take the pen, and finish the problem himself. He thought he was helping. But slowly, his students stopped trying. They learned that growth wasn't theirs to claim, it belonged to the teacher. And one day, when he looked around, he realized he had built a room full of dependence, not discovery. That's what happens when we try to save from above instead of beside. Our help becomes a pedestal, not a hand. We might feel powerful, but what we've really done is deny the other person their right to awaken on their own terms. Because no matter how enlightened we think we are, life has a way of reminding us we're all students here. Ask yourself with gentle honesty, am I helping because I care, or because I want to feel right? Do I listen to understand, or to correct? The moment you step down from the invisible podium, something beautiful happens. Love returns to level ground. Wisdom softens into humility, and helping becomes what it was always meant to be, not a performance of superiority, but a meeting of equals, both learning how to see. You've met them before, the ones who always seem to be drowning. Every week brings a new disaster, a new crisis, a new reason why life is unfair. Their stories change, but the ending never does. They're the victim, and someone else is to blame. And if you're a kind soul, you've probably jumped into their waters more times than you can count. You listen, you advise, you comfort, you rescue. Yet no matter how often you save them, they always find their way back to the storm. At first, you think it's bad luck. Then you start to realize something harder. Some people don't actually want to be rescued. They want to be rescuing. Their helplessness isn't a condition, it's an identity. It gives them belonging, sympathy, attention. If they stop being in crisis, who will they be? I once knew a man who called every friend he had whenever life went wrong. Car trouble, heartbreak, job loss, he always needed saving. One day, his oldest friend said gently, I love you, but I can't keep pulling you out of the same hole. The man was furious. He called him cruel, heartless, ungrateful. But a strange thing happened months later. Without anyone left to rescue him, he learned to fix the car, to handle the heartbreak, to stand. The moment no one came running, he finally began to walk. That's the paradox of the helpless. As long as someone keeps throwing ropes, they'll never learn to swim. Sometimes the kindest act is stepping back and letting the current teach them. It's not abandonment, it's faith. Faith in their strength, in life's intelligence, in the strange wisdom of consequence. So, the next time you feel the urge to rescue, pause. Ask yourself, am I saving them? Or am I saving myself from the discomfort of watching them struggle? True compassion doesn't shield others from their lessons. It stands quietly at the shore, knowing that pain can be a teacher far wiser than pity. And when they finally emerge, soaked but standing, They will not thank you for saving them. They will thank you for letting them discover they could. Not every cry for help is what it seems. Some people don't seek healing, they seek reflection. They come into your life not to grow beside you, but to feed on the image of goodness you carry. They know exactly what to say, exactly how to look at you with those eyes that whisper, "You're the only one who understands me." And before you know it, you're hooked, not by their pain, but by the feeling of being needed. The manipulator's power lies in their mirror. They reflect your kindness back at you just enough to keep you shining, while quietly turning your light into their fuel. When they flatter you, it's not admiration, it's calibration. They learn your values, your hopes, your guilt, and then play them like strings. You think you're choosing to help. In truth, you're being conducted. I once heard of a young artist who met someone fascinated by her work. He praised her endlessly, told her she was brilliant, special, destined for greatness, until she began painting only what pleased him. When she finally tried to paint for herself again, he grew cold, distant, disappointed. "You've changed," he said. "You're not the person I fell in love with." That's when she realized he hadn't loved her at all. He'd loved his reflection in her devotion. Manipulation isn't always malicious. Sometimes it's unconscious. People mirror you to feel whole. But if you keep feeding that illusion, both of you stay asleep. They remain dependent on your light, and you remain addicted to being their sun. So, how do you break the spell? By refusing to play your own reflection. When you stop performing your goodness for approval, the mirror cracks. The manipulator loses interest. And what's left, though quieter, is real connection or honest distance. Ask yourself, do they love me? Or do they love how they feel around me? And do I give because I care or because I crave being the savior in their story? When you can look into a mirror and no longer need to see yourself as good to know that you are, no one can use your light again. It shines not for validation, but for truth. Some people wear defiance like a crown. They pride themselves on being untamed, unteachable, proudly different. They speak of freedom, but what they really mean is resistance. Every suggestion feels like control. Every boundary feels like a cage. They say they're just being authentic, but watch closely. Their rebellion isn't born of freedom, it's born of fear. I once met a man who left every job, every friendship, every relationship the moment things got uncomfortable. "No one tells me what to do," he'd say, chest out, eyes hard. He called it independence, but you could feel the loneliness behind his words. He wasn't breaking chains. He was running from mirrors, the kind that might show him his own unhealed patterns. He confused opposition with individuality, forgetting that real freedom doesn't need an enemy. The illusion of the rebel is seductive because it looks like power. But rebellion without reflection is just reaction. You're still bound only now by the very thing you claim to reject. You define yourself not by what you love, but by what you resist. It's like a seed that refuses the soil because it doesn't want to be buried. It mistakes stillness for death, not realizing that darkness is the only place where roots can grow. We all have a bit of the rebel in us, that wild spark that says, "No one owns me," and that spark is sacred. But when it hardens into defiance, it stops being fire and becomes armor. And armor, no matter how shiny, is still a prison. Sometimes growth requires surrender not to another's control, but to life itself. To admit, maybe there's something I don't see yet. Maybe freedom isn't leaving every structure, but finding peace within them. Ask yourself, am I rebelling because it's true to me? Or because I'm afraid of being seen, guided, challenged? Real liberation isn't the absence of guidance, it's the presence of humility. When you stop running from the teachers, life sends even when they come disguised as discomfort. Rebellion melts into awareness. And from that awareness, something softer, wiser, and infinitely freer is born. So here we are, after all, the saving, the giving, the pouring out. Maybe you've begun to see the pattern. It was never the world that demanded you lose yourself. It was the part of you that believed love meant sacrifice, that thought being needed was the same as being worthy. But love and worth were never bargains. They were birthrights. You see, the world doesn't need you to fix it. It needs you to see it clearly. It needs your presence more than your performance. And sometimes that means standing still while others thrash in their own waters, trusting that life knows how to teach what you cannot, The butterfly must wrestle its way out of the cocoon. The seed must split open in the dark. The pain you refuse to take away from others is often the pain that sets them free. Letting go isn't indifference, it's respect. It's saying, I believe in your strength even when you've forgotten it. It's stepping back, not because you don't care, but because you finally understand that growth can't be borrowed. You can love deeply without carrying everyone. You can care fiercely without collapsing. You can open your heart and still keep your center. And here's the beautiful irony. When you stop rescuing everyone, you begin to meet the kind of people who no longer need saving. When your love stops trying to fix, it starts to heal. When your compassion stops rushing, it starts to breathe. Take a moment now. Think of one person, one situation, one burden you've been holding that isn't truly yours to carry. You don't have to drop it in anger or slam the door. Just set it down gently, like a stone by the river. Watch how light your hands feel when they're finally empty. You are not unkind for stepping back. You are wise for letting life do its teaching. You are not broken, you are awakening. So today, choose one thing to release. Just one. The door has always been open. You only needed to stop kneeling to walk through it. And when you do, you'll realize you were never trapped, only waiting to remember how to stand in your own light.